Okay, in this video, we are going to cover subsetting in our Rguroo, specifically related to our homework problems in section 4.4. So I'm in the practice of 4.4 and I'm looking at one of our practice questions. So suppose you are looking at a house in Mount Pleasant, South Carolina, which is near Charleston, and you have limited your search to acreage more than 0.3. Using this data set from this website, answer the following questions. Okay, let's stop here. Number one, anytime that the homework asks you to look at a data set from this website, note that you do not need to go to the website. Every single one of these named data sets that they're stating is coming from this website has been preloaded into our Rguroo. So all we need to do is know where to go in our Rguroo to get the data set, which I'm going to show you in this video. Before we even look at the question that they're asking, we are going to want to create a subset. We're going to find the data set and upload it into or find it in our Rguroo, because like I said, it's already in there. So we do not need to do any web access or downloading. And then we are going to create a subset based on the restriction they give us and the variable that they call out. It's going to make more sense once we do this example. So let's do it. Let's head over to our Rguroo. I'm going to log in. We're going to come over here to data, data import, and we're going to come here to the data set repository. We're going to come to the data set repository every time a Hawks homework references a named data set and that website. That's how you know it's already inside of our Rguroo. So here are some preloaded data sets. There's quite a few, but specifically we want to look for our book. Okay, our book is a Hawks book. Okay, that's why our homework platform is called Hawks Learning. There are 2 Hawks books that are preloaded in here, but we want to make sure that we grab our book. So our book is called Discovering Statistics and Data. It also states it as soon as you log in or hit the Hawks Learning link in Blackboard to log into our course. The name of the book is right in front of you before you actually enter the Hawks Learning course. It says Discovering Statistics and Data. Okay, it's always the book underneath our Rguroo's user guide. Once you left click on this book, you'll notice down here that these are all the data sets that are ever referenced in the homework that are named data sets. Okay, these are much larger data sets. You can see this one has 22,000 rows versus we were working with data in 4.3 with just 20 data values. And specifically, they called out the Mount Pleasant real estate data. Okay, these are in alphabetical order. So once I click on it, one left click, I'm going to click import. It's going to tell me that it was successfully saved in my data window. The only reason why I have a 2 here is because I've done this a couple times. And you're just going to close out of this import window. If you scroll down to the bottom of your data window, you should be able to see the last data set that you imported or saved. So let's double click on this. I highly recommend when you are working with a data set that you haven't seen before that you review it first. The reason why is because it's always a good idea to get comfortable with the variables. The variables in a data set are the labels of each column. Okay, so this column is the variable list price. So everything listed underneath it represents a property's price that they're selling it for. Down here, you can see how many rows we have. We have 245 entries. Okay, every row represents a different property. So row number 1 is a property that's out there in the world, and all of the characteristics about that property can be found if you read across the row. Every column represents a variable, so everything in this column here represents list price. The reason why you're going to want to get familiar with the variables, if I take the scroll bar, I can see that there are a lot in this data set, because your Hawks homework is going to specifically call out certain variables, and it's always good to know that for example, the one that we're working on talks about acreage and subsetting based on acreage. Oh, acreage is a variable. That makes sense. Okay, let's go back to the Hawks problem, remind ourselves, how do they want us to subset this large data set? I can see that they want me to subset with respect to the acreage variable and with the restriction of strictly more than 0.3 acres. Okay, so to get to the subset function, we are going to go under data, functions, and we were going to go here to where it literally says subset. Okay, so let's open that up. You're just going to open up a new tab. Remember that you can go back to anything you've previously done by clicking the tabs here at the top. Once you're in the data subset editor, click the down window menu and select your data set that you have imported. Once you have imported the data set, we now need to tell the subset editor exactly how we want this data set to be subsetted. And to do that, we need to go to logical expression. We need to add an expression to the expression line. All the variables are pre-populated in this drop-down menu. If your drop-down menu happens to be blank, sign out and sign back into Rguroo, because I have seen that glitch happen before, but typically signing out and signing back in solves the glitch. It wants me to subset with respect to the acreage variable. OP stands for operation. These operations are written in R programming language. So Rguroo is powered by a statistical programming language called R. And in very small cases, the programming language does make its way to the front end of this software. And this is one of those cases. So this double equal sign is just means equal in R. This, what looks like a surprised equal sign, exclamation point equal sign, is the way that our language says not equal to. Then we have our greater than or equal to, our less than or equal to, our strictly greater than, and our strictly less than. For this problem, because we want more than 0.3 acres, that is a strictly greater than translation. Okay, so English sentences do translate to inequalities, and you can always Google the expression and see what is the inequality that is associated with that expression if you struggle to translate them. That's why we have the internet at our fingertips. In this value box, you're literally going to type in the value in the homework, so 0.3. Going to click done when I'm ready. Then I'm going to click my eyeball. So I see here that I'm still in the subset function versus it being a saved data set, which means I will not be able to do any math in here. So notice when I hover my mouse over the variable, I don't get any option to sort it or to do anything with that variable. And that's because I haven't saved the data set yet. I'm still in the actual function of subsetting. I like to double check that my subsetting was that worked properly. So I look for my acreage variable and I just do a quick scroll to see, does it look like all the acreage listed here fits the parameters that I believe I put in place correctly, which would be greater than 0.3. And with a quick scroll, I do not see any acreage listed here that appears to be less than 0.3. So it looks like we have a properly subsetted data set. Now there is a little wonkiness with Rguroo. The default is to have this saved parameters box checked. If you save this subset with that box still checked, it will lock all of the variables, and you also will not be able to do any calculations or sorting within that saved data set. So it is very important that you unselect the save parameters box and then save your subset. So I'm going to save this as Mountain Pleasant greater than 0.3 so that I know exactly which data set this is subsetted from and exactly how it was subsetted in case I have to go back to this. So I'm going to hit Save As. Okay, I'm still in the subset feature, not in the data set. In order to open that data set I just saved, I need to double click it in my data window. Okay, so notice the difference. Subset is red with a different icon. This is the actual editor. And here, this looks like an Excel sheet. It is the data set, and it's green saying saved properly. Okay, so now I have a saved subset to the parameters given in the problem. I'm ready to read what question they want me to answer. So for this particular one, they want me to answer what is the minimum price. And then after I decide what the minimum price is, they then want me to calculate the price per square foot. Okay. So there's some pretty cool features in this new data set editor that I did want to show you. If you wanted to restrict the columns so that you have less to look at, you can unselect columns by clicking this box and then simply click on the variables that you do want to focus on. So in order to find minimum price, we are going to need list price. And the second question they want us to calculate is the price per square foot. Per is a division sign, so they want price divided by square foot. So I'm going to need square footage. Okay. Now, these are not listed in any order, but if I hover my mouse over the variable name, if I click it once, this is saying that these are listed from smallest to greatest. So I have my smallest up here and I can see that they are increasing. If I clicked it again, which I'll do just so that we can see, the arrow changes and it says greatest to least. So if I wanted the largest or the most expensive property in this subset, which is $2 million, oof, then that's the sort arrow that I want. And if I click it a third time, it goes back to the original order the data set was in. So I'm going to click it one more time to get it back to ascending order, where this is the minimum list price. So for the minimum list price, I would write $430,000. So that would be my answer here, 430,000. Not sure if I'm supposed to have a comma. I'm going to leave the comma out just in case. Now, to calculate my square footage, I'm going to take this list price and divide it by the square footage of the home. So in a calculator, type in 430,000 divided by 2,112 square feet. The calculation comes out to be 203.598. I take a look at how they want me to round. The nearest cent means 2 decimal places. So I will put 203 point, and because it's 598, it's going to round up to 60 cents. Submit my answer, and yay, I got it correct. Let's try another one. This time I want to find one that, oh, continue practicing. We'll come back to this one. I want to do another numerical one before we switch to the breweries. Here we go. This is perfect. Okay, so let's do another one in that Mountain Pleasant real estate data, but this time we are subsetting from a lower limit to a higher limit, still focused on the acreage variable. Okay, so I don't have to go and get the Mountain Pleasant data set again, because remember, once I have taken it from my data set repository, it's still in here. But I do need to subset differently this time. I need to subset between two values. So I'm going to come back to my subset feature. Again, data, functions, subset. Select my Mountain Pleasant real estate data, the whole data set. Select the logical expression. This time I will need two expressions, one stating that there is a lower limit and one stating that there is an upper limit. I have to remind myself what those numbers were. So my lower limit was 0.21. So I need to write an expression that says, please look at acres greater than or equal to 0.21. So variable, acres, operation, greater than or equal to, value, 0.21. Now I need to account for the upper limit, because right now, if I just kept this one expression, it would give me every property greater than 0.21. But I don't want every property greater than 0.21. I only want the properties greater than 0.21 that don't exceed 0.3. So I'm going to add an expression. I am going to select the acreage variable. I am going to select the operator of less than or equal to, and I'm going to type in 0.3. Now we're not done because we still have to tell our guru that we want to use both of these expressions at the same time. So in my logical expression calculator line, I'm going to bring down the first line by clicking this arrow next to the name. They name these randomly, by the way. There's no meaning to E6 and E12. It's just so that when I bring them down, I know which one I've already brought down. I brought down the expression line that's labeled E6. I want this to work in conjunction with the other expression. So this is an and statement because both have to be true at the same time, therefore warranting an and then bring down the second expression. So I'm telling our guru that I want them to subset this data set using both these expressions at the same time. Click done. If you ever want to double check what was the expression that you wrote out and make sure you did it right, you can double click this line and it will bring back that editor. When ready, hit your eyeball. And again, I'm going to head over to the acreage variable and do a quick scroll that all of these numbers look to be between 0.21 and 0.3. Okay, so there are 48 properties. I can see that by looking at the number down here. It tells me there are 48 rows, meaning 48 properties meet this criteria. Before I can answer or do any calculations, I need to unselect the Save Parameters button and save my subset. Again, my choice is to save it, labeling it what data set did it come from, Mountain Pleasant, and how did I subset it. So this would be 0.21 to 0.3. Then it makes it easier for me to identify if I need to reuse a subset, which one's which. Again, you have to go to your data window and double click the data set to open it, noticing the difference between the tabs. Red, meaning it's not, you're not gonna be able to do any calculations on it. And green means you're good to go. Coming back to our question now, let's find what they actually want us to calculate. They want the average price of the homes. Okay, so there is a really cool sum feature here. This sum feature, when you click it, will give you a 5-number summary and a mean and a standard deviation and a variance of all of the variables in the data set. Now, this data window is very small, so it does make it a little difficult when you have all the variables in here to match up the line. And then once you scroll, you lose the name of the variable and you're trying to match up and make sure you stay on the right line to find the mean. So you can just hit that sum button, go with it. But there is another way, in case there's a ton of variables, of being able to narrow the window so that you can just look at list price. But before I show you that, I do want to make note that this standard deviation and this variance are sample standard deviation and variance. So if you need the population standard deviation and variance, recall they are different formulas and therefore produce different values. You always have to come to analytics and into numerical summaries to do population calculations. Okay, let me close out of here so I can show you how to narrow it down in case that window, for some people's screens, it could be really small, like you only see 1 or 2 lines at a time, can make it difficult to scroll and make sure you're looking at the right variable. And we're going to use this editor over here, like I showed you on the first example. So first I'm going to unselect all the columns, and then I'm going to bring back just list price. Now, notice that the name of the data set here in the tab turned red. Anytime we make a change, it does require us to resave in order for us to do calculations. In fact, it'll give you an error. It'll say that you need to save it. Okay, and it's because it's telling you did something different. We're looking at a different data set essentially. Now I'm going to save it as something different. I'm going to save it as just list price at the end, so I know that this only includes the list price instead of overwriting my last subset with just one variable. And now when I hit my sum, it will calculate only list price, reducing my scrolling. And now when I scroll to the right, I can be confident that the mean that I find in here is indeed the average list price. You can't copy and paste out of here. I've tried. Really annoying that you can't do that feature. So you do need to make sure to write this number down so that you are entering the correct value. So it does want us to round to the nearest cent because we are talking about money. So let's make sure that we write down this value. Hold on, I should have had a piece of paper in front of me. So we have 605,820, and I need nearest cent. So this would round to 10 cents. If I come back over here to Hawks, I would enter in this value. And voila, satisfactory average dollars calculated. Okay, now this is subsetting with quantitative numbers variables. I'll do another video where I discuss subsetting with categorical or qualitative variables. So look out for that video.